3 years ago, 10 years ago, maybe even 20. A single moment, a single sentence, a single mistake, and somehow, your mind can replay it. With perfect clarity, you remember exactly where you were, what you said, how people looked at you, how your heart raced, how desperately you wished you could disappear. Yet something strange happens. Ask the people who witnessed that moment, and most of them won't even remember it happened. So why do you? Why does your brain hold on to embarrassment as if it were one of the most important memories of your life? Why can one awkward conversation echo inside your mind for years, while hundreds of happy moments fade into silence? The answer reveals something extraordinary about the human brain. You see, your memory was never designed to record your happiest moments. It was designed to protect you. Imagine living thousands of years ago. One careless mistake could mean being rejected by your tribe. And rejection wasn't merely uncomfortable. It could be fatal. To survive, the brain evolved to remember painful social experiences far more vividly than pleasant ones. Not because it wanted you to suffer, because it wanted you to avoid making the same mistake again. Even today, your brain still follows that ancient blueprint. An awkward presentation, calling someone by the wrong name, tripping in public, sending a message to the wrong person. Objectively, these moments are small, but emotionally, your brain treats them like survival lessons. It quietly whispers, "Don't forget this. It might save you next time." And so, the memory stays, long after everyone else has forgotten. But here's the irony. The lesson your brain is trying to teach is often based on a lie. Because while you're convinced everyone remembers your mistake, they're usually too busy remembering their own. Psychologists call this the spotlight effect, the tendency to believe that other people notice us far more than they actually do. Imagine walking into a crowded room, wearing a shirt with a tiny stain on the sleeve. You become convinced everyone is staring at it. Every glance feels like proof. Every smile feels like judgment. Yet the truth is astonishing. Most people never even noticed. Why? Because they were occupied with their own worries, wondering if they looked awkward, if they sounded intelligent, if they were being judged. The same fear that lives inside you quietly lives inside almost everyone else. And that realization changes everything. Because the audience you've been performing for was never really watching. They were too busy performing themselves. The psychologist Thomas Jelovich spent years studying this phenomenon. His research revealed that people consistently overestimate how much others notice their appearance, their mistakes, and their embarrassing moments. The mind creates an invisible spotlight and then convinces us that everyone else can see it too. But if that's true, why do some embarrassing memories continue haunting us even after we know nobody else remembers them? The answer lies deep within the way our emotions reshape memory itself. And once you understand it, you may finally stop reliving the moments that the rest of the world forgot years ago. But here's where shame becomes far more dangerous than embarrassment itself. Embarrassment usually lasts for a moment. Shame can last a lifetime. What's the difference? Embarrassment says, I made a mistake. Shame quietly whispers, I am the mistake. That single difference changes everything. Imagine dropping a glass. It shatters across the floor. You apologize, clean it up, and move on. Now imagine, instead of dropping the glass, you begin believing that you are clumsy, careless, incompetent. One event slowly becomes an identity. The human mind does this more often than we realize. A failed exam becomes, I'm not intelligent. A rejected application becomes, I'm not good enough. An awkward conversation becomes, I'm socially awkward. Without noticing, the brain transforms temporary experiences into permanent conclusions. Psychologists call these cognitive distortions. The mind begins telling stories that feel like facts, but stories are not reality. Think about a movie projector. If the film is scratched, every scene appears damaged. The screen isn't broken, only the lens through which you're looking. Shame works the same way. It changes how you interpret yourself. Every new mistake becomes more evidence. Every criticism feels like confirmation. Even compliments become difficult to believe. Because once the brain accepts, I am not enough, it starts filtering reality to protect that belief. Ironically, the mind would rather be consistent than accurate. The psychologist Brené Brown spent decades studying shame and vulnerability. She found something remarkable. People who recover from shame don't do so because they never make mistakes. They recover because they refuse to let mistakes define their identity. They understand that failure is an event, not a personality. Yet many people never learn this lesson. Instead, they spend years punishing themselves for moments that lasted only seconds. Think about someone who laughed at you years ago. They probably went home, ate dinner, watched television, and forgot the incident before the week was over. Meanwhile, your mind kept replaying it again and again until it became part of your life story. The strange part is, the person causing your suffering is no longer them. It's your memory of them, and memories are surprisingly unreliable. Every time you recall an event, your brain rebuilds it. It doesn't retrieve it. Like opening a file, it reconstructs it, piece by piece. Emotions, expectations, and beliefs all influence the final picture, which means the embarrassing moment you've been reliving for years may not even resemble what actually happened. Your brain has been editing the story every single time you've replayed it, making it feel bigger, more painful, more unforgettable. But here's the question. That changes everything. If your memories can be reshaped, could your relationship with those memories also be transformed? Modern psychology suggests the answer is yes. And once you understand how, you may finally stop allowing yesterday's embarrassment to control tomorrow's life. But perhaps the most fascinating truth about shame is that it survives only in darkness. The moment it's exposed, it begins to lose its power. Think about a child walking through a dark room. Every shadow looks like a monster. Every strange sound feels like danger. But the instant someone turns on the light, the monsters disappear. Not because they were defeated, because they were never there. The human mind creates emotional shadows in exactly the same way. The longer you hide an embarrassing memory, the larger it grows. The more you avoid it, the more mysterious it becomes. And mystery has a way of magnifying fear. Imagine carrying a sealed box every day for 10 years. You're terrified to open it, certain that something horrifying is waiting inside. Then one day, you gather the courage to look inside. You find nothing more than an old photograph, something that once mattered, but no longer has the power you imagined. Many of our embarrassing memories are exactly like that box. We spend years protecting ourselves from something that no longer exists. The psychologist Daniel Kahneman showed that the human mind often remembers experiences, not exactly as they happened, but according to the emotional peaks and how they ended. One awkward moment can overshadow an entire successful day. One criticism can erase 10 compliments, not because it was more important, because emotion leaves a deeper imprint than logic. Now think about the last time someone admitted they were nervous, or embarrassed, or afraid. Did you judge them? Or did you feel a little closer to them? More often than not, honesty creates connection, not rejection. This is one of psychology's great paradoxes. The flaws we spend years hiding are often the very things that make us relatable. Perfection creates admiration. Imperfection creates trust. Perhaps that's why the people we remember most aren't those who never stumbled. They're the ones who stood back up without pretending. They never fell. The researcher Brené Brown often speaks about vulnerability, not as weakness, but as the birthplace of courage, connection, and authenticity. That idea changes everything. Because if vulnerability creates connection, then hiding every imperfection may actually create the loneliness we're trying to avoid. Imagine wearing a mask every single day. At first, it protects you. People only see the version you want them to see. But after years, something unexpected happens. You begin wondering whether anyone would still accept you without the mask. Not because they rejected the real you, because they never had the chance to meet them. And perhaps that is the greatest tragedy of shame. It doesn't just convince you that your mistakes make you unworthy. It convinces you that your true self must remain hidden. But there is one final lesson. The lesson that separates people who remain imprisoned by their past from those who finally become free. Because healing doesn't begin when you erase your embarrassing memories. It begins the moment you stop allowing them to decide who you are. So how do you finally break free? Not by forgetting the past. The human brain was never designed to erase memories. It was designed to learn from them. Freedom doesn't come from deleting the memory. It comes from changing its meaning. Imagine opening an old journal you wrote 10 years ago. You read the pages and suddenly smile. Not because everything was perfect, but because you've become someone who understands that version of yourself. You don't judge the child for thinking like a child. You don't criticize the teenager for acting like a teenager. So why do we show so little compassion to the person we were only a few years ago? Growth means outgrowing old versions of yourself. Yet many people continue putting their current selves on trial for decisions made by someone they no longer are. Think about this. Every person you've ever admired has embarrassed themselves. Every great speaker once stumbled over their words. Every successful entrepreneur has failed. Every respected leader has made decisions they later regretted. The difference isn't that they escaped humiliation. The difference is that they refused to build their identity around it. The psychiatrist Viktor Frankl once suggested that between what happens to us and how we respond, there is a space, and within that space lies our freedom. That space is where healing begins. You cannot always choose what happened yesterday, but you can choose the story you tell yourself about yesterday. Perhaps your embarrassing memory isn't evidence that you're foolish. Perhaps it's proof that you had the courage to try. Perhaps that rejection wasn't proof that you weren't enough. Perhaps it redirected you towards something you couldn't yet see. Life has a strange way of making sense only after we've walked far enough to look back. Many of the moments you once wished had never happened quietly became the lessons that shaped your character. Without them, you wouldn't have developed empathy, resilience, humility, or wisdom. The scars you've spent years trying to hide may be the very reason you understand other people's pain. And isn't that what makes someone truly human? Not perfection, but compassion. Not a flawless past, but the ability to transform pain into understanding. So the next time your mind replays that embarrassing moment, don't ask, why did I do that? Ask something different. What did that moment teach me? that I couldn't have learned any other way. Because every memory has two possible futures. It can remain a prison, or it can become a teacher. The choice has never belonged to the memory. It has always belonged to you. Before you leave, I want you to think about one question. If you could speak to the version of yourself who made that embarrassing mistake, what would you say? Write your answer in the comments. You may discover that the kindness you would offer your younger self is the very kindness you've been denying yourself all these years. If this journey changed the way you see your past, welcome to Ancient Whisper. Here, we explore psychology, philosophy, neuroscience, and the hidden truths that shape the human experience. If you're searching, not just for knowledge, but for understanding, subscribe and join us on the next journey. Until then, remember this: your most embarrassing moment is not your identity. It is not your destiny. It is only one page in a story that is still being written, and the best chapters may still be waiting.